have it. I remember when President Bush ate the pretzel and collapsed. We had to make every record available. We had to provide doctors in extremis to the press. And when she misled the American people, or people on her behalf misled the American people about the seriousness of that concussion, it does create some doubts. Now, I'm separate that from the arguments that Trump makes about her, can she, as she up for the rigors of the presidency? People have made that argument back to John Adams and Thomas Jefferson.
Okay.
So that's in politics, but both of these people ought to come clean with all their records.
Mo, would you like to respond to the triple whiteboard?
I didn't hear it all over the sounds of the black helicopters that I think were flying by the window here.
He's coming after
what I think I did hear, though, was Carl repeating many of the things he said back in the day that he actually had to walk back because a lot of it wasn't right and wasn't true. And this is what I'm talking about.
This is absolutely true. The president, the Secretary of State, allowed her people to mislead the American people about the seriousness of her concussion.
No. The insinuations that you're making there, the insinuations that Donald Trump making there, there's very little difference between the two.
I'm not insinuating anything. I'm not insinuating anything.
Nobody can understand when you talk over each other like this.
I'm not insinuating anything. I am saying her people did not tell the American people the truth about her concussion, and misled the people, delayed providing information, and then her husband admitted that it had taken her 6 months to get back on the
Gotta leave it at that. We appreciate you doing the writing on your whiteboards and something better than Dr. Scratch, so we could actually read it. And
I'll bring mine next time too,
whether
Carl.
the American people are persuaded is up to them to decide. Great to see you both. So still ahead, a possible terror attack in Virginia and the questions it's now raising for the FBI. Have you heard about this? Plus, Kevin Jackson and Andel Brown are here on Donald Trump's attempts to reach the black community. And then big news, watching Donald Trump spend the last 10 days making appeals to inner city communities, we're seeing yet another shift in tone as he reaches out to another minority group, this time on immigration. Trump was speaking with our own Sean Hannity just a short time ago when he revealed that he is softening what has become one of his most popular policies.
Is there any part of the law that you might be able to change that would accommodate those people that contribute to society, have been law-abiding, have kids here?
There certainly can be a softening because we're not looking to hurt people. We have some great people in this country. But we're going to follow the laws of this country.
There can be a softening. Kevin Jackson is a Fox News contributor and executive director of theblacksphere.net. And Andel Brown is a defense and civil rights attorney. Good to see you both. Andel, let me start with you on that and your reaction to his statement after all this time. I mean, a year plus where he's been hard line on immigration. There's going to be a deportation force. The 11 million have to go. Their families have to go as well. There can be a softening. There's a softening.
Well, this is so important that Donald Trump waited until August, 2 months before the election, to address a softening on immigration with the Hispanic American community. I think it's too little, too late, and it's really just trying a last-ditch effort to reach out to Hispanic voters. His campaign has not been inclusive, and I don't think it's helping now.
Kevin, his numbers with African Americans are dismal. His numbers with Hispanics are dismal. His numbers with women are dismal. And there is an article in the Washington Post tonight talking about how he is now trying to sort of erase the impression that people have that he is, quote, racist with all three of those groups.
Well, I think it's ridiculous that anybody would think that Trump is racist. He's taking a stance that many Americans believe. I actually think it's kind of heartening to look at where Trump is going to be in the next couple of weeks, because the outreach that he's done in the black community, what he's now talking about with Hispanics, even though these are not monolithic issues, I don't believe that immigration is the only things that Hispanics are thinking about. But I think that the fact that he is reaching out and talking about these issues and giving it a bit of a deeper dive is interesting. I think what's more funny is watching the left have a conniption because they've had a monopoly on the black and Latino vote for quite some time. And now here's a Republican who's able to reach him without the long arm of the media stopping him. So I think it's going to be fun to watch in the next few weeks.
Andel, you know, he's reaching out not only the Hispanic community, and that, you know, already he's getting blowback. I mean, Ann Coulter, she's hardline on immigration, and she has been forever. She just said the following over on MSNBC. Listen.
How's it different than Obama? How's it different from all the candidates he just beat? I go through. That's one of the five talking points every politician
he's going to deport the felons.
Well, it's very different from the actual policy, but they all say that, and it just sounds very consultant to me. This could be the shortest book tour ever if he's really softening his position on immigration.
She's on a book tour. She's basically saying, I don't want to see that. And the question is whether this might erode some of his core support with that base he's done such a good job of cultivating.
Actions speak louder than words, and when it comes to African Americans, black women are the leading group when it comes to college enrollment in this country. Black men not that far behind, both ahead of Trump's base of white males. We are more than poverty, crime, and violence, and that seems to be all Trump can address when he's talking about black people. We're not lining the gutters of America waiting for Trump to save us. We're doing fine and we're making progress on our own. He needs to have a better pitch than "you're doing so bad, how much worse can it get?" We need him to tell us what he's going to do and to address
Kevin,
the issues.
He's referring to the fact that Trump came out yesterday and said, "What the hell do you have to lose to the black community? Like, come with me, vote for me." But you got to give him some credit for reaching out to these groups, do you not? I mean, he's struggling with African Americans and with Hispanics.
No, Megan,
but he's trying.
Megan, great soundbite. Great soundbite for Trump to say.
Participation
trophy. To say that because he's exactly right. He's exactly right. The Democrats have effectively ruined the black community. We could look. There's a lot of things going on that are great in the black community. The problem
what
is
he going
only
to do
a
to
handful
fix it?
of them
That's
are getting
the question.
it. And the problem is that when you talk about things like black neighborhoods, you shouldn't even be saying things like black neighborhoods, black schools. We all know what that implies. These are the worst of the worst. When we look at criminality, when we look at jobs, all of it is bad. It's all under Obama, and it's all in big cities run by Democrats. So Trump is exactly right to bring this to the fore, because you know what? Democrats believe that blacks are the sacred cows that are going to come to the barbecue and eat like everybody else. It's time we barbecue the sacred cows, and Trump is actually making an impact.
Well,
I will tell you,
the internal polling we're told in the Trump campaign
like
shows that he's got an opportunity.
What Trump is about, and he's appealing to a different base. He doesn't care about black people's votes.
Well, the internal polling appears to show that there's some room with the African American voters because many are dissatisfied with the Clinton policies on crime from the Bill Clinton administration. I got to go. Great to see you both. So the key question in this race is this. With 76 days left, 76, can you believe that? I know. And Hillary Clinton holding a lead in the swing states. What does 75 days from the election, Hillary Clinton is maintaining her 5+ point lead over Donald Trump in the average of all national polls. But in battleground North Carolina, the candidates are locked in a virtual tie. That has not stopped Trump's campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, however, from saying that the surveys aren't really telling the whole story. Why? So-called undercover Trump voters. We're hearing more and more of this. Joining me now to discuss it, Tucker Carlson, editor-in-chief of the Daily Caller, Kristen Soltis-Anderson, Republican pollster and Washington Examiner columnist, and Ben Domenech, publisher of The Federalist. So what Kellyanne is saying, and we've heard this from a few Trump supporters now and campaign operatives, is there's the undercover voter who doesn't want to tell the pollsters that they're in Trump's camp because a social stigma has been attached to being a Trump voter in her mind. And so he's underpolling what he really is how he's really going to perform. Tucker, do you buy it?
I mean, there's probably some truth in it. I think it's a pretty slim hope to hang a campaign on. On the other hand, we just saw a pretty clear example of this in late June in Great Britain with the Brexit vote. So the night before the Brexit vote, the stay side, the anti-Brexit forces, were 4 points up in the polls. They won by 2, so that's a 6-point shift in 24 hours. The betting markets, which traditionally are pretty accurate because actual money's at stake, had it 90-10 stay, leave. The demographics were pretty similar to what we're looking at now. People who supported stay were the finance community, ethnic minorities, and young people. And I think what happened was a lot of those people didn't vote in the numbers that the leave people voted in. So that's not a crazy comparison, actually. If it gets tight, I think that could be real.
What do you think, Kristen?
In the primaries, there was a big difference between how Trump performed in calls where you had a live person asking someone over the phone, who are you voting for? And some of these surveys where it was online, where you're not saying to an actual person who you're voting for. Trump tended to do a little bit better in those surveys. But here in the general election, we're not seeing that same kind of divide. You know, as Tucker mentioned, there have been cases in the past where we have what we call social desirability bias. People think they've got to give the right answer on the phone, but it doesn't make up for the kinds of margins that we're seeing Trump down by in some of these key swing states. So I think to the extent that there are any missing Trump voters, there's also the chance that there are voters that are Democratic voters who get missed because they're hard to survey. Maybe they don't have landline phones and such. So there's a chance the polls could be off a little bit either direction. It is slim hope to hang a campaign on.
Ben, the Weekly Standard's Jonathan Lashed tweeted out, if Trump's actually winning, or basically suggesting if he's got all these voters who are prepared to vote for him but we don't know about him, then why did he reorg his successful campaign operation?
Absolutely. That's something you'd have to ask. I mean, it's one of these situations where, to Tucker's point earlier, if Donald Trump was able to make this close, if he was able to become more acceptable, more socially acceptable as a choice, I think that you would see much tighter numbers in all of these states. I think you'd be seeing him doing a lot better. I think the problem is that he's run through the course of what people know about Trump now. He's very much a settled proposition. People know who he is, and I think that these types of claims that there is some great mass of people out there who want to vote for Donald Trump and just haven't been willing to say that to a pollster, that's just too much of a reach at this point in the campaign.
But now he is trying to mix it up, Tucker. I mean, clearly this shift on immigration is an attempt to bring more people into the fold and banking on his long-held belief that not a single one of his core supporters will leave no matter what he does or says.
Right. And that may be true. I do think it's a mistake to finesse a policy that hasn't been laid out yet, which is, in effect, what he's doing. I mean, look, the Brexit people won under the leadership of Nigel Farage because they articulated really clearly what it was about. And what it was about was democracy in action. He was making the case that, look, a small group of people make all the decisions in this country. It's supposed to be a democracy. It's not. And now's your chance to make your voice heard on behalf of borders and sovereignty and acting on behalf of your own country. That's a really powerful message. That's in effect what Trump is saying, but he's not saying it explicitly enough. I think if he were to shift to that and stop with this dumb, well, you know, maybe a deportation force, maybe not. No. Big picture. Stick to the big picture. And I actually think even at this late date, he could pull it out.
What about, like, is Trump optimizing his schedule? I mean, what was he doing in Mississippi tonight?
Yeah, this is one of the big challenges that I see the Trump campaign really needs to readjust to is there are a handful of states that are going to decide this presidential election. We can talk about the national polls and is Trump up or down? You know, is he down by 5 right now, down by 6? But it's really all about states like Ohio, states like Pennsylvania, like Virginia and Florida. And the Obama campaign in 2012 really focused on optimizing not just what state President Obama was going to travel to for campaign rallies, but what county in those states, and use data to decide what is the best way to optimize every hour of that candidate's time. And it seems to me that Donald Trump is really good at building a fan base. He's good at going places where he can get excited rallies, but that's not the same as putting together the electoral votes to be president.
Ben, quickly, the debates, how big a factor?
I think the debates could be a huge factor. The problem really is that in Donald Trump's case, you have to assume a campaign that doesn't really exist yet in terms of the people on the ground who could exploit a good performance in those debates and actually bring people into the fold, especially in those critical states that Kristen just mentioned.
Great to see you all.
Good to be with you.
Up next, Ben Shapiro with the story of the college campus now running the Stop White People trade at the State University of New York at Binghamton tonight. Resident advisors there being offered an optional training course called Stop White People 2K16. Supposedly this is diversity training, but some say it's actually racist. Ben Shapiro joins me now, an attorney and editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire, which broke this story. Ben, good to see you. What's this about?
So basically, there was a resident assistant program, a training program. 40 to 50 RAs attended it, and the goal was to teach all of these RAs how to deal with white privilege and all of the race